Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. An old friend or something like it. For years, I owned the Sinn EZM 1.1, both this and that, designed to pay homage to Sinn's most legendary watch, the 1997 EZM, the first Einsatzzeitmesser or mission timer created for the German Federal Customs Enforcement Service. And while the 40mm titanium original is long gone and my old 1.1 scattered to the far corners of the earth, that edition has given way to this one. So this was launched in 2022 in a 500-piece series. This is the EZM 1.1S. And of course, you know S abbreviates black in German. 25 years since the original EZM 1, this watch features 2 accessory straps and tools in addition to the full bracelet that comes with it. And mine did not have a bracelet. This edition has the bracelet, so a feather in its cap there. Dimensionally, 43mm in diameter, this Frankfurt-made German watch is 16.7 millimeters thick by 49.5 millimeters lug-to-lug, and if we go end link to end link, total distance across the wrist, 53.6 millimeters with a 22 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Now, of course, this watch is an EZM, a mission timer. So we have both chronograph and a countdown bezel. But first, how does it fit? Quite well, actually. Now, it's very stark. This watch is not going to go unnoticed. But you can see that on my wrist, 16 centimeters circumference, even with the bracelet adding to the bulk, it still fits quite well. Definitely not a unisex option, but you don't need to be huge either. I think you could wear this on a wrist my size or larger, and it would look good and it would feel good. Now, the bracelet's a wonderful piece. Again, mine had a bracelet available as an option. This one includes it as standard. Taking a look, you can see that it's a 2-link design with intermediates and then H-profiled outers. There's a conforming end link that mates it seamlessly to the case. Sinn uses these hex screws rather than flatheads because they can take more torque for greater security without the risk of stripping out like you find with a conventional flathead. Now, the clasp is a single swing arm deployment, and you can see that it has a clamshell locking mechanism so you can secure it. It's Sinn branded here. We have a fold-out dive style extension, even though the watch is not a dive watch. This is so it can be worn over tactical gear. Because, again, German Federal Customs Enforcement Unit, you got to think about they're dealing with organized crime, human trafficking, weapons trafficking, drug trafficking. So it's not unreasonable to imagine this being worn on the outside of protective gear. We also have a few divots drilled in the clasp, so you can dismount the spring bar and change the anchoring point of the bracelet in the clasp to fine-tune the fit here. Jumping back, I should explain this black coating. So all versions of the EZM 1.1, the Steel 43, they are created using tegament, which is a carbon-diffused steel that has a several micron thick hardened layer that's effectively as hard as ceramic, upwards of 1,200 Vickers. Mine never scratched in the 4 years I owned it. But then this DLC coating, what they call hard black, that's even harder than the tegament, and it's applied on top of the tegament. The idea being, the reason you normally see DLC fracturing is because it's applied to soft underlying metals. So just like the inside of an egg is soft and offers no give, well, really no give back, I should say, so it doesn't resist the force. If you touch the side of an eggshell, you can break it easily because the yolk doesn't provide underlying resistance. Whereas here, force meets an equal and opposite force. You have that give back as you give pressure, preventing the brittle but super hard black from collapsing on top of the soft metal beneath. Because the metal beneath is hard, the material on top will never collapse. As a result, you have an even more scratch-resistant and durable watch than my old bare tegmented steel. You could see it as a lefty. Remember, I mentioned tactical operations. The idea here, and it's a little bit difficult to visualize in my light box, but if you're holding a gun or a light like this entering a compartment of a ship or a corridor or a locked room, as you sort of hyperextend the top of your hand, the crown's not going to dig into your hand. That's why it's a lefty. So that's the rationale behind that. Getting a little bit closer, it is a screw-down crown, 200 meters water resistant. You can see we have this little copper sulfate capsule, and the idea is that when these are, that little AR, once upon a time these watches were argon filled, now they're nitrogen filled, same idea. An inert gas basically flushes out all the interior volume, expelling moisture and dust during the assembly of the watch, and then the replaceable copper sulfate capsule will pull out any moisture that still manages to intrude. Now this starts at a very light blue or even white, and it becomes super dark blue when it's time to replace it. And yes, it can easily be replaced at the time of service. So this AR, despite the AR, it's not argon, it's nitrogen, and the copper sulfate capsule pull and push moisture out of the watch. Now another important feature that I should mention is the captive bezel. So this bezel, it's a bidirectional. You can see it's a countdown bezel. So when I align the index, it counts down, not up. So it's not a dive bezel. And there's no shortage of luminescence here. Note that even the chronograph seconds and the radially displayed 60-minute format chronograph minutes, they're just passing each other right now. Those are both loomed, so the mission timer works even in the dark. The captive bezel uses little screws that hold the bezel to the case so it can't be snapped off by impact. It's a very durable system that not a whole lot of brands use. It's a little bit more complicated and expensive. There's an anodized aluminum insert in the bezel, and then the dial is black for high contrast, matte black, anti-reflective. Everything that's red is of secondary importance. You don't need the date. By the way, note the instantaneous jumping minute right here. It's part of the SC01. So SC01 is Sinn's re-engineering of the Valjoux 7750 architecture to work like the old Lemania 5100, because the original EZM1 had a Lemania 5100. So you had a chronograph with a central 60-minute register, coaxial with the seconds. So this is a 7750 that's been modified to work that way, with the instantaneous jumping and the radial 60-minute display. Now, of course, the 5100 doesn't have instantaneous jumping, but again, this is an upgrade, not a duplicate. We also have hacking seconds and a quick set date. It beats away at 4 Hz, being 7750 based. It is a unidirectional automatic winder with a 42-hour power reserve, and it uses the 7750's distinctive combination of a cam for function cycling and then an oscillating pinion to engage. And you can see with the oscillating pinion, there's almost no extraneous motion to the chronograph seconds hand. That is one of the advantages of the oscillating pinion. It has almost no play. A feather in the cap of every 7750 derivative, but rarely mentioned. Also important here, though you can't easily see it, is that this watch has special lubricants designed to withstand temperatures as low as minus 45 degrees Celsius and as high as 80 degrees Celsius. So more than enough to kill you on either end. It also has the finely sleeved D3 push pieces, and while contrary to popular belief, they do not allow you to use the chronograph underwater. They do make the watch considerably more hermetic in other conditions, as it's less likely that atmospheric moisture will be able to seep in, and it provides a better brace for the extended index that actually moves the control surfaces of the chronograph. It's just a little bit more durable against shearing or impact. So lots to love on that front. Now the watch comes with some toys because this is a 25th anniversary special edition, a 500-piece edition. You get 2 straps, 1 rubber, 1 leather, plus tools, and a large boxed set. There is lots and lots and lots to love. And if you love this watch, and I know I do, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.